Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview Sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.
Welcome to the podcast. This is your host, Seth Greene. Today, I've got the good fortune to be interviewing Logan Freeman. He is the key principal, co-founder, and chief development officer of FTW Investments. Logan, thanks so much for joining us.
Seth, thanks for having me, man. I'm really excited to be here.
Let's go back in time a little bit because you've got a kind of interesting career path from football to FTW.
Absolutely. So yeah, got started as an athlete my whole life. Grew up, Jefferson City, Missouri. Played ball all through high school, college, got picked up as an undrafted free agent with the Oakland Raiders. That didn't work out. I got cut, went back to school and finished my master's degree, changed my whole life, got started in business and moved to Kansas City and, been working in the real estate space for the last 5 years.
All right. Well, congratulations on that. Tell us a little bit about FTW.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, I've been on all sides of transactions in the real estate world and mostly as a commercial broker in a previous life and, just decided, hey, I want to get into the ownership side of things. And so started purchasing real estate myself and found that it was, exhausting to own real estate and operate real estate by yourself. And so I started to look for a team and a team that I could really rely on and started to put that in place. It's been a 3-year journey, but we've scaled effectively and efficiently now and have a pretty good kind of team put in place to allow us to continue to go to new markets. But, that's kind of what we do is allow private investors to get access to real estate, but not have to manage toilets, tenants, and trash.
The 3 T's. I love it. All right. So allowing private investors to get access to real estate, how does that work? How are you structured?
Yeah. So typically we're structured as syndication. So, it's a syndication model where there's general partners and limited partners. Limited partners get a preferred return and then there's a waterfall on top of that. So our real specialty is being owner operators in our markets that we operate in. And so we don't do deals that we don't operate typically. And we're very Midwest focused, Class B and C workforce housing and triple net lease, neighborhood retail and office is kind of our main focus. And so we haven't gone outside of, the Midwest to this point, and we try to be experts in the markets that we operate in.
That makes a lot of sense. So how are you sourcing your deals in the first place?
Yeah, self-sourcing is the name of the game right now. Obviously COVID-19 gave us a big opportunity to purchase quite a bit of real estate when everybody else was kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting for COVID pricing. We were out there transacting. So that gave us a big foothold, allowed us to build some track record and some trust with a lot of sellers in the marketplace. And so this year's not been the same. It's been a lot more difficult because the uncertainty in the marketplace has definitely cleared up and allowed folks to say, hey, commercial real estate is going to hold up and we're going to invest in it. And so now I'm seeing people pay 15-20% higher than pre-pandemic levels. And so it just really takes a velocity of deal flow. And so we have cold callers, man. We have, on the phones. That's how we've built every single business that we've started and been a part of is making, 100 to 200 phone calls a day, building those relationships and just pounding the pavement. And I know that's not what people want to hear. It's like you want to do something fun online and bring leads into your company. That works for a lot of different parts. And we do that on the investor side. But in regards to finding the deals, you have to be able to create a margin of safety. I'm a broker myself. I work with other brokers, but when it comes to actually acquiring properties, we're typically direct to seller.
All right. So that's about the sourcing side. Now you talked about the team talk a little bit about the team that that you're working with.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have everything from marketing in-house. We're working on getting construction in-house as well, but we have asset management. So we have 3 people on the asset management side of the business. We have acquisitions in-house. We have bookkeeping and accounting in-house, financial controls in-house as well. And then we have the 3 principals. So the FTW stands for our last names, Freeman, Tuck, and Webb, or for the win. And each one of us brings kind of a unique skill set to the table. Myself on the self-sourcing of deals and investors, Corey on the operations and scaling companies, and then Parker being a retail kind of principal and more of a financial underwriter and analysis type. So all of that's in-house. In regards to the team, we have some operational support, obviously, admin support that we have on a regular basis as well. But most of the things that we do is in regards to sourcing and operating these deals effectively.
Awesome. And you talked about the operations side, staying in the Midwest where you're strongest. Talk a little bit about like your boots on the ground approach to operating and managing those properties.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really important to be able to get to your properties, and I can't stress this enough is, when you're looking at new projects, you have to know what your competition is. And if I'm not in a market and I don't have a good feel for it, I can't give you an analysis of that market. Obviously, operating in Kansas and Missouri for the time that we have, I think we have a competitive edge, and we started to get that in Nebraska and Iowa now as well. And so, I mean, the operations piece is, okay, well, you need to have property managers that you can trust and that they can, obviously operate the property effectively, but you need to be at those properties on a regular basis, making sure that the construction's being done, that leasing is happening, and the properties look well as well. And so that's the part of it. And so we try to stay 3.5 hours or so kind of around Kansas and Missouri, so we can get there and back. I was just in Des Moines, Iowa earlier this week, touring a new project. So that's a big part of it, in holding people accountable, and then the relationships. So, when we talk about vendors, right, we need a painter, we need flooring, we need drywall, we need counters and bathroom packages. And so you have to have multitude of relationships along the vendor side of things. So when one person gets super busy, you can go to the next one, and you can keep the pricing competitive as well. That's kind of the name of the game of the construction world right now.
You talked about, so we talked about sourcing, we talked about operations. Now, how do investors participate in that? Quick legal disclaimer before you answer: we are not making any investment recommendations on this podcast. We are not making any solicitations. But how do investors participate in your deals in that limited partnership type structure?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our investors, Seth, are first timers. And so we have education that goes on a regular basis. I mean, what is private investing? What is commercial real estate? How do you get paid? How do you add value? How do you force appreciation? So weekly educational content going out on that piece, and on investment philosophy, right? And so thinking about getting or uncorrelated returns that are uncorrelated to Wall Street. But at the end of the day, it's really a relationship that's being built via marketing automation and via educational content. And then when we have a new project, we have a webinar. So we just have a presentation of the project. It's live, so people come on and they ask questions. We answer those questions, and then it's a ton of follow-up. And so that's it. I mean, in regards to participation, I mean, it's very similar to an investment in the stock market in regards to what you have to do, right? I mean, it's you got to review their subscription and the private placement memorandum and all of those different documents. You got to understand the risks of the investment. And then it's to wire your money and get your monthly and quarterly updates on a regular basis. But I mean, there's not much more participation from an LP standpoint than that. And then it's just regular communication with the principals and investor relations team.
So if I'm writing a check, am I writing it to a fund, or am I writing it for one specific project? I own 10% of that strip mall, and then I'm getting the pass through of rent, income, tax reduction, tax deductions, all amortization, all that stuff.
Great question. All single asset syndications up to this point, no fund structures that we have put together. Some of the projects have multiple properties inside of them. So maybe it was a portfolio of multifamily properties that we purchased together, but it's all directly tied to the actual project itself. And you do have a direct ownership in the LLC that owns the real estate. And so you do have a percentage ownership in that company.
And then you've had so much success over the years. What would you say your biggest challenge is now?
Biggest challenge now is simply finding new projects, finding, vendors to continue to implement the business plans, and keeping our pulse on construction costs and making sure that we navigate all the different regulations in regards to COVID. And so, collections, delinquency, making sure we're following process on that is extremely important. But at the end of the day, these residents of these properties have to pay their rent, and we have to collect that rent. And so, we have kind of a hashtag CTR. It's not click-through rate, it's collect the rent. And so we host, events at the properties, man. You want your donuts? Fantastic. Bring your rent check, and so what we're seeing as kind of a trend is, especially in the workforce or attainable housing space. I'll re-say that is attainable housing space is what we kind of focus on. Is you have to have high touch with these folks because they need to know what you're doing to make sure that the property is improving and why rental increases are happening. And when you're going through a management transition, who is the point of contact? And so a lot of these are new acquisitions that we're transitioning from one management group to another one. And so there's a lot of touching that has to go on in regards to making that process as seamless as possible.
Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
It's this, man. It's being able to help people kind of focus on what they want to in their lives. I've had some investors been able to, build their passive income up to a point where they can step away from their kind of W-2 job that they've been at for 20, 25 years. And that's really, really rewarding is trying to help people get some income that's not correlated to the stock market so they can rely on. And that's been a big piece that's been rewarding for me. The second one is, we are truly solving, at least in our markets, taking properties away from landlord or slumlords and trying to create safe and affordable, clean housing. And that's a big piece too. Is obviously I'm blessed. I'm sitting in a home office right now. Not everybody has that same access. Okay, I understand that. A lot of our residents don't, and so working with nonprofits, I sit on the board of directors of a nonprofit here that works to end homelessness. We house a lot of that clientele in a lot of our properties. And that's been rewarding as well, is literally learning about these families that were potentially going to be on the streets, finding a solution for them, giving them the resources that they need to be successful just to have a good life. And if you go back to the studies, children that do not have a safe or consistent home life, the studies show that they're much more prone to ending up in incarceration or out on the streets. And so a lot of the clientele that we serve is kind of impacted by that stuff. And so that's been rewarding as well.
How have you dealt with the challenges of, you mentioned collect the rent. How have you dealt with the changing regulations in terms of, for example, what you're allowed to do to collect the rent, when you're allowed to evict, how that process is now changed?
We've had to educate ourselves like crazy and educate ourselves and then understand what that communication needs to be to these residents. We're talking about 2,000 people that we are serving, in regards to the multifamily side of our business. And so at the end of the day, it's like, okay, you see a headline. Okay, great. You see this big, long article that kind of details the process. All right, fantastic. How is that actually, that's complete at the theoretical level, but how is that effective at the applied level? So then it's disseminating that information. It's working with the property managers to get the information that the residents need, so they know that the resources are out there that they can be successful. And so it's just taken a lot of time. As principals, we've had to spend a lot of time. We hired an associate asset manager just to handle this piece of our business, to make sure that the property managers know what they need to be, obviously providing the residents and then also managing that process. So, it's taken a whole position that we've had to hire for.
You advise so many different groups of people every day, whether it's investors, tenants, vendors, suppliers. What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Man, I'll say this: be quick, but don't hurry. And I think it's, you have to be able to move fast, but you can't be in a hurry. And when you're moving from the loudest to the latest is when mistakes start to happen. And this runs true in every part of our business. And so you have to be quick, but you can't be in a hurry, and you have to be honest and transparent along the process.
That is good advice. For our folks who are watching and listening and want to learn more, where is the best place for them to go?
I appreciate that, Seth. Our website is FTWinvestmentsllc.com. Like I mentioned, lots of educational content up there. Highly active on LinkedIn as well on a regular basis. So if you're on LinkedIn, you can search Logan Freeman, FTW Investments, and you'll find us there as well.
All right. This has been Seth Greene with Logan Freeman of FTW. Logan, thank you so much for joining us.
Seth, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. We'll talk to you or see you next time.
Do you need money to fund your idea, product, or service? Are you ready to take your business to the next level, but need capital to get it done? Kevin Harrington has heard more than 50,000 pitches and knows how to help you make the perfect pitch to get the funding for your entrepreneurial dream. He's distilled the process down in his perfect pitch cheat sheet, and it's yours for free. Just text PITCH to him right now at 727-888-2100. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 right now and claim your free perfect pitch cheat sheet. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 to start funding your dream today.
This show has been produced by Market Domination LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.